Last week, I asked 114 musicians how they made money in 2024 and how much money they made. And in this video, I'm going to break down what their answers were and whether it's even possible to make money as a musician in the modern world that we live in. So this is going to be a data-heavy video, but before we turn around to the old computer screen and look at a big spreadsheet of survey responses, I want to give a little bit of context for the survey. So this was to my email list, which is definitely a hugely biased sampling of musicians. It is definitely not every musician in the world, and it definitely doesn't represent everything perfectly or even near perfectly. But with that said, I think it still tells some really strong stories, and so that's what I'm going to unpack in this video. And the main thing I'm going to be trying to answer is, how do people make money? Like, what are the actual ways to make money as an artist? So if you've ever wondered that, stay tuned. And now, with that said, let's flip around to the old computer screen and get into it. All right, here we are at the old computer screen, and this is the Google form that I use to collect responses. Super pro-level technology. So I figured I'd start just by showing you the questions that I asked, and then we'll hop over to the spreadsheet where you can see like the breakdowns of the answers. So first, where are you from? Are you independent or signed to a label? How would you describe your music career in 2024? Was it your main source of income, a side hustle, or a hobby? I thought this was interesting as like a filter. More on that in a sec. What genre best describes your music? And of course, I gave a space for other in case people were very special or just in a weird genre that I didn't think of. Spoiler alert, there were a lot of those people. And then here we get into the income question. So how did you make income in 2024? Live performances, crowdfunding, compositions, teaching lessons, merchandise sales, streaming royalties, or other. Which of the previous mentioned income streams was your top income stream? So out of these, which one made the most money? How much did that top income stream generate? And then how much income total did you earn in categories? And how much income exact? Obviously not scientific. There are lots of problems with this. I also realized in retrospect, some people treated this as gross income, so just the total amount they made, and some people treated this as net income. In my mind, it was meant to be just total income. I do not mention expenses at all in here, so I was assuming that by default, but some people did not. Understandable. There is some inconsistency in the data probably because of that, because I had a few people respond and be like, oh, I thought we were talking about net income. So understandable. My bad. Should have clarified more explicitly. Those were the questions we're looking at. Here is the data. Anytime I look at a spreadsheet like this, I'm just a little bit overwhelmed. So I tried to break it up into a few key takeaways, basically like filtering by specific variables. So first of all, the average income was $13,327. That's how much the average musician made in 2024, according to this survey. Obviously, there are only 114 people responding to this, so very, very small, anecdotal more than anything, but I do think it tells a story. Interestingly, though, the median is only 1,450, and that's probably more representative because you can see we have a bunch of people who like had under 100 or less, and then at the top we have 150,000. So I think median in this case is probably more representative of your random musician in the crowd than the 13,000. And then I broke things down into a couple different categories as well. So we had, I believe, 4 people who were signed. The average among the people who reported revenue was $71,000, but again, pretty big disparity. Our top earner was $150,000. That's $124,000 more than the lowest signed artist income, but on average, $71,000. I do think that is an anecdotal story that the data is telling. Indies made on average $11,000, so significantly less than our 4 signed artists. And then these are the categories. Did they tag themselves as this was my main source of income, it was a side hustle, or it was a hobby? Those who reported it as their main source of income made on average $43,000. That is not a super sustainable career for most people. Definitely if you have like a family, that would not be a ton of money in the US, but it's a pretty big range. So 6,000 all the way up to 150,000. Side hustlers, musicians made on average $10,519, and then hobbyists made on average $2,476. So that is the breakdown for those different categories. Now, I think it's particularly interesting to see how the people who are treating this as a main income stream actually made their money. These are all the responses from musicians who said, music was my main source of income in 2024. And then this is the answer to their question, what was your top income stream? What made you the most money? 40% said teaching lessons, and 40% said live performances. Only 5% said streaming royalties were their top income stream, and you can see session work, compositions, and record label salary. So huge takeaway from this, vast majority of musicians are doing like a live service type of thing if music is their main thing. Either you're playing shows or you're teaching lessons. Spoiler, like that's the main takeaway. If you can have one takeaway from this video, you probably have to play shows or teach lessons to make music your full-time thing. If you contrast that with part-time musicians, you can see streaming royalties become a more likely top income stream. Live performances are even more common to be the top income stream though. Now, I imagine this is people who are playing bars or playing shows on the weekends and using that as a source of income. And then a little bit of merch sales, some mentoring and session work. But still, live performances are the biggest income earner here. And then last, and I guess also least, these are the hobbyist musicians' top income streams. So you can see here, if you're a hobbyist, it's far more likely that streaming royalties are going to be your top income stream. Makes sense because those are like the low-hanging fruit. As long as you're putting out music, it's going to hopefully be on streaming services, and so you'll get some streaming revenue. Most likely it won't be very much. But if you're not doing really anything else, it's just a hobby, that might be your top income stream. Live performances still make a large percentage of the top income stream, even for hobbyists. I think that's a pretty common thread across pretty much everything is live performances, live performances, live performances. Basically, if you want to make money as a musician, play shows, play shows, play shows. There weren't too many musicians who listed merchandise sales as a source of income. This was all 7 of them right here. I was interested though in seeing the income associated with artists who did list merch sales as an income stream. And so this is the average income from people who sold merch and recorded it as an income stream in 2024. You can see it's actually like exactly the same as the overall average of all musicians. So I don't think there's much of a correlation in the data, but I was kind of hoping that people who sold merch would make a little bit more. Doesn't seem to really be the case, at least again in our very anecdotal data set. And then finally, I was curious about crowdfunding, and I included Patreon in the question as well as Kickstarter and other things like that. I have always loved the idea of Patreon groups where you just get enough people to support you as a musician and they're paying you every month, and that is a large part of your income. It does seem like that is maybe correlated to making more money. These are musicians who listed crowdfunding as an income stream, and nobody listed it as a top income stream, I don't think. But on average, the total income from these artists was higher than artists who did not crowdfund. So again, super small data set, probably anecdotal, but it is interesting if you're thinking about Patreon as kind of the mode toward 1,000 true fans or something like that. It does seem like there's some correlation between asking people to pay you money regularly and making more money. So that's how musicians, at least the musicians on my email list of about 10 to 12,000 people, depending on how recently I've cleaned it, that's how they make money. As I've repeatedly said in this video, I think the main takeaway is that if you want to make money, you probably should have some kind of strategy to play live. There are other ways. I also think one of the takeaways from the video is that it helps to have multiple income streams. I did find that the average musician who was making music their full-time thing had at least 4 income streams. So don't look to Spotify royalties to save you. Probably don't even look to playing live shows to save you. It's going to be a combination of things that will give you a really sustainable income. But that's the data. I will put a link below this video in the description to the spreadsheet if you want to check it out for yourself. There are obviously a ton of different ways to break it down that I did not cover in this video, so feel free to mess around with it. Also, just one more disclaimer, I am not a data scientist. I'm not even particularly smart. So these sorts of videos are never meant to be like laws. Just take them for what they're worth, which is telling a story of what the music industry is like. Hopefully it's helpful. As always, wishing you good luck, and wishing you especially the good luck to be compensated for the good music that you're making. You got this.